Hello, hey friend. How you doing? Hope you're alright. I know it's been a minute. I haven't really recorded one of these in a while. Don't really have a valid reason to be honest. No excuses. I'm gonna hold myself accountable. I've just been a bit lazy with it. I just haven't really been feeling it. I didn't want to force it, but today I was feeling like it, so we're back again. Hope you guys have been alright. I've been doing okay. Just trying to stay sane. It is winter time, so it gets a bit harder to just be consistent with your routines and stay motivated, but doing what I can. But yeah, anyway, today I wanted to speak about the idea of being performative. And I think it's really interesting because I think nowadays we're hearing a lot about this idea of performative males or performative men. Basically, the idea that guys are trying to create a version of themselves to get validation from women. So, the typical things like guys drinking matcha, wearing wired earphones, listening to like certain artists or whatever. And it just made me realize like we're all performative. We are all performative. And you're probably thinking, oh no, not me, I'm just real. I'm just real as fuck, I just do my own thing. But okay, sure. I just want to kind of break down the idea of performance and being performative because I know it's obviously you've got like a negative rep like being performative, but I think you can't really help but be performative to some extent. So yeah, when you think of performative, you're probably thinking about trying to maybe join like an in group while not really authentically believing or having those opinions or actually liking the things that you're pretending to like. When it comes to that, I think to an extent we are all performative because we have all been programmed to have a propensity towards certain things. Like for example, guys, a lot of us are into sports. A lot of us are into cars, tech, stuff like that. Let's be honest. If for whatever reason in like an alternative universe, all guys that were into that kind of stuff were like ridiculed by other men, and they were like bullied and picked on about it, it'd be less likely that you'd be interested in that. It'd be less likely that you've used that to basically be a part of your personality or part of your identity. But it's the fact that it is reinforced with, being part of a group and other men also enjoy it. You can build relationships off just having shared interests, especially as men. We are we usually like build relationships off like a common interest or like a common subject that we're both interested in. For example, like I'm sure like you've got friends that you've kind of met because you like similar artists or you support the same football team or something like that, for example. And to an extent, it becomes a performance. Liking the things that you like or having a sort of aesthetic to you, it's a performance. And although it's going to be a part of your self-expression, there's also a part of that means that I'm expressing myself in a way that is, of course, for a certain audience. Of course, you're going to say, well, that audience is primarily me. That might be true. But there's also the secondary effect, which is I know that if I, show myself in this way, I'm more likely to attract people who maybe also appreciate this sort of stuff that I'm putting out there. And when it comes like that, it comes like a endless cycle of like, okay, I'm being myself, but only to the extent that it allows me to not be ridiculed for it. And I think especially as men, it's like it's very difficult to get away or detach from the need to be, liked or validated by others. I think for men, especially, like a lot of our self worth is based on our ability to be used in some aspect or for some sort of purpose. Like I think for a lot of men as well, like we have this really deep ingrained sense of duty, which again, I think this is all based on some sort of performance. Because if as a man, if you don't perform, you're not you're not really appreciated, you're not really validated, you're not really allowed to take up space unless you perform in some sort of way. And I think that's why all of us are performative. But for some reason, we look down on those that perform for women. Because I guess it's more socially acceptable to perform for other men. And I think that starts a whole nother argument where you probably heard it before, where women say that, guys are kind of gay for how they prefer the validation of men over women. I think that's a whole other subject. I don't think that it's not really like a black and white thing. Like, oh yeah, guys are gay because they want to impress other guys. I don't think it's like that. But there is definitely a sense of it being more okay to be like a guy's guy, of course, than it is to be a guy who maybe is more inclined to do things that women like. People are gonna probably call you a performative male, even if that is your natural instincts or whatever. And again, it just goes down to the point. It's like, what are we even trying to uh, say when we call people performative? Are we trying to say that we aren't performative? That like I'm able to notice your behavior as being out of the norm, so it must be a performance. And I think if we start arguing like that, and if we start like calling people out like that, it's inevitable that we're gonna start to have to reflect inside. Okay, like when or how do I perform? Because if by a man going outside of the norms of what it means to be a man is performing, then isn't just staying in those reigns of masculinity also a performance? And to what extent do I benefit from this performance? Is this boring? Is this a boring comment? I don't know. I like talking about this kind of stuff, so I can't tell people I follow it. But yeah, I think the idea of performing as a man is almost synonymous with masculinity and synonymous with the male experience because, as I said before, if you like, I know what it feels like to be a man who doesn't perform. I know what it feels like to be a man that is like just stays at home, plays video games, smokes weed all day, like watches porn, all that kind of shit. Technically, you're kind of not performing the role of a man because you're not being useful, and people don't respect you for it. And I think that is why being a performative male, in the sense of performing for the validation of not just individuals, like how people say performative males are performing for like individual women and for their validation. I think performing for society as a whole is the bigger and more tiring performance. Because at least for the man who's performing for female validation, there seems to be some sort of end goal. There seems to be some sort of like finish line. Okay, I pretend to listen to uh, Babadoobie or whatever his name is, and girls like me, and I get to sleep with them, and I get to date them. Okay, cool. That's the end goal. But for this performance that is like society wise, like every day I gotta wake up and like pretend that like I don't care about certain things, and I have to pretend that I'm like super masculine. I have to pretend that I care about this sort of stuff. It's like there's no end goal to that performance. There's no time that someone's gonna say, okay, yeah, it's enough now. Like you've proved yourself. You're man enough now. That doesn't come. There's no one to like finally put that like that dot on the sentence of your masculinity. And I think that's why that performance is one that most people perform until the day that they die. A lot of men will be in this like hamster wheel of performance forever, this endless cycle of trying to prove yourself to others, and it just never ends because there's no end goal to it. And I think the more that I've become aware of the performance, the more that I've wanted to like just get off the hamster wheel, just jump off, because I realize you don't have to be on it in the first place. You don't have to join the race to prove yourself if you've already proved yourself to yourself. And I think that's why it's very important to reflect on yourself and reflect on your beliefs, reflect on your patterns, reflect on like just your life and like what you're doing with it. Because if you're constantly looking outside of yourself for validation, if you're constantly looking outside of yourself or to wider society to validate you for how you're doing as a person, you're never going to be fulfilled because no one's ever going to be fully happy with you. Like, society as a whole is never going to be fully on your side because it's constantly changing. What was celebrated 5 years ago is now demonized today. And I'm sure that trend will continue forever and ever. The point I'm trying to make is when it comes to this idea of performance, it's important that you become the audience that you're performing for. That's about. So instead of performing for this like faceless, kind of confusing society that kind of is wishy-washy with what they want you to do, you have to build enough integrity in yourself and also enough direction in yourself to know what makes you happy with yourself, what really aligns with your core values and your beliefs. And I know I sound like a unk, man. I sound like a unk. I can't believe this is how I speak and who I am now. that yeah, because I didn't believe in a lot of the stuff that I used to say. That I'm saying now, like 5, 6 years ago, and I think I'm constantly caught in this like, just this realization of like, oh wow, like I sound like the type of person whose advice I used to ignore when I was younger. Yeah, that's just a random revelation I've just had. But in general, when it comes to performing, it's really important that you're performing for yourself first. You're showing up for yourself first. You're like really making yourself feel validated first. Because when you do that, like the audience, this imaginary audience, whether it's an individual or like society as a whole, your family or your friends, whoever it is, their applause doesn't drown out your own applause. Like their boos or whatever doesn't drown out your own applause either. Because I think it reminds me of that quote from like Rick and Morty. It's like um, something about like not caring about the crowd's applause, because no, not care, not valuing the crowd's boos because he's seen what they cheer for. And I think that is such a like massive example of like just how I feel about society right now. Like when I see what society really applauds, it's like, oh, I don't care when I don't feel like I'm living up to the standards that they have for me, because these aren't the standards that I have for myself. These aren't the values I have for myself. I think it's always important to be rooted in something deeper than external validation, as I've said before. But yeah, I feel like I'm kind of beating a dead horse right now with that point. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think we are all performative, males and females. And I think the sooner that we're able to, close the curtains on that performance and get off stage and actually live our authentic real lives, I think that's really the solution for a lot of the things we're going through internally anyway, on like a macro level. Because a lot of the pain that we go through, a lot of the turmoil, the inner dialogues we have is all based on like, am I performing enough? Am I showing up the way I should be? And this idea of like should as well is something that's very powerful. And I know it affects women as well, but I know personally it affects men deeply. This like constant nagging of like, I should be making X amount of money. I should be living this sort of lifestyle. I should be doing this. And it's like, who is giving me, who's telling me what I should and shouldn't do? And what is that based on? Is that based on my lived experience, or is that based on some sort of fantasy that I've seen on social media? Like the couple 10 seconds that I've seen of someone's life that they've that they've like decided to show me. It's really important to not base your worth and not base your, like, how do I say, um like your feelings toward yourself basically on other people and how they feel about themselves. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is stop performing, be yourself, as generic as that sounds. Like, make yourself proud. Ignore people who are trying to make you feel bad about yourself because you're not living up to expectations that they've decided to put on themselves. And have vicariously put onto you, that isn't your problem. So yeah, that's what I'm going to leave you with today. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Pierce Perspective. I know this was a pretty random and short one, but it is what it is. The first one back in a while. And yeah, let me know what you guys think down below if you can do that. I'm not sure how I do this. But yeah, it was cool talking to you guys again. And yeah, hopefully we'll speak soon. See you later.